Hello and welcome back to Crafted by Corie. If you're new, I'm Corie. Welcome to my channel. If you're returning, as always, I appreciate you more than I can say. I have some coastal inspired decor for you today, and I'm going to be announcing our winners from last week's video. So stay tuned and let's go ahead and get right into the crafting. DIY number one. Right, now I have this little glass bowl from the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to go ahead and get it cleaned up. I don't know if this is considered a vase or a little fish bowl, but I used a baby wipe to get the rest of that little residue off, and then I kind of wiped off the outside. And then I used a microfiber, a little towel to clean up, or just dust, I guess you could say, the inside of it. After I did that, though, and here you can see with that, when I was kind of in progress with this project, I was wishing that I had actually cleaned the inside with rubbing alcohol. I noticed that there were either fingerprints or there was something going on, and the alcohol ink was kind of clinging to that and making it not perfect. You know, I'm going to be doing other things with this, so it wasn't all that noticeable in the end, but it was something that I knew was there. It was bothering me. So just a word of the wise, definitely might want to clean the inside of it. But I've picked out an alcohol ink here. I believe it was just called Navy, and you saw me adding some water to it. I was trying to figure out a way to get the alcohol ink to cover the entire inside surface of this little bowl without being too dark and getting. Sometimes alcohol ink, it can, I don't know what the right word is for it. It can create kind of harsh lines with itself. That's probably a really bad description, but at any rate, I wanted it to be uniform. And so I spent a lot of time trying to empty out some of the water because you saw that I'd gotten too much water in there, adding more alcohol ink, trying to get the right consistency for it to just nicely coat the inside of my bowl and get it to the right hue. Because essentially I'm just staining this little glass bowl and I want it to be a really pretty blue ocean kind of color, right? Like a coastal inspired color. So that's what I'm doing here. And I'm shaking it a lot because I'm trying to get that ink to fully coat in all the places. And I decided I needed to add some more. It wasn't quite dark enough for me. So I'm shaking it a lot because, again, and I think the scientific term for it is the surface tension. I could have that wrong, but essentially the ink was getting a little caught up in certain areas on the glass. And so I was shaking it to try and help break that tension and let it hit all of the little places in the glass. So I finally got it to a really good consistency, and I just continued to let it coat. Just took my time and made sure that I got the entire surface. And once I was done, I emptied it out onto my little baby wipe and I set it aside to dry. A couple of days later, I came back to it. It's all dry now. I love the color of it. And I have this twine or jute cord. I'm not sure exactly what this is. It could be either. I'm honestly not sure. But it's a thin piece, right? And I'm measuring off a double length or a double strand, I guess you could say, about 2 feet in length. And I'm cutting that off. And I'm going to measure to get a loop that will fit around the top of my little bowl. And I'm going to tie this off. I'm sorry, I'm a little out of frame, but I'm just doing a loop knot. And I'm going to continue to measure that as I pull the knot tight to make sure that I'm going to have this loop that will sit just over the rim of my bowl. I don't want it to drop too far down, and I want it to be snug. So I'm just going to keep working with that until I get to the way I want it. And now that I've got it where I want it, I'm going to go ahead and I guess first I'm going to check and make sure that it's nice and a good length because of what I'm going to be doing with this. But now I'm going to measure off using the tail end of that loop thing that I just created and get additional strands, double strands that are that length, plus about an inch, because I'm going to be tying them onto the loop that I created, and I want to make sure that everything is about the same length in the end. And so I am cutting a total of 7 additional loops here total, because with my tails, that'll make 8. Hopefully you're following what I'm saying, but you're going to see in just a minute what I'm talking about. So went ahead and continued to cut each of these, making sure that they were all double lengths. If I had to guess, I would say that these are about 18 inches long. But now that I've got them all cut, I'm going to tie them onto my loop. So I'm leaving them doubled over, and I'm using that loop in the doubling to stick my little ends through. I'm not explaining this well at all, but I'm going to show you in a close-up in just a second, so bear with me if you're not understanding what I'm saying, because I feel like I am not being clear. But here we go. So close-up coming here. Going to put my little loop through there. I'm taking the ends and sticking it through the folded loop and pulling it tight around the original loop that I'm tying it around. You're going to be able to see better in just a second, but hopefully that makes a little bit more sense because I put it in real time as well. So once I have them all tied on there, here you go again. This is the last one. I put it through the loop. I put my ends through the loop of the new one, right? And I tightened it. So now I've got 8 different double strands coming down off of my original loop that I had created. And one set of those strands is the tail that I had created with making the loop, making sure that everything is evenly spaced here. And once I do that, I'm going to take one strand from one knot on the left and then a strand from the knot on the right. I'm going to tie those together. So just one of the 2 strands from each side, I'm going to tie them together, and I'm going to do that all the way around. So I'm taking one from the left, one from the right, and tying a knot, and it's just a loopy knot. I don't know what the technical term for the knot is, but just tying the 2 of them together. It's not a tie your shoelace kind of knot. It's tying them both together into a loop. I'm at a loss for words right now, you guys, but hopefully you are kind of getting what I'm talking about. I did that all the way around, and now I'm going to go down to the next layer, next row, so to speak, and I'm going to do the same exact thing, and it's going to kind of create a diamond pattern. So you can start to kind of see what I'm doing here. And I'll continue to work my way down, and once I get low enough and it starts curving back under, because of the shape of the bowl, I'm going to flip it over and I'll start working on the other part of it and try and make sure that I'm getting it as snug as I can as I come up over the bottom of my bowl now. But this is all we're doing. We are literally just taking a strand from either side, tying a knot. I'm trying to make sure that my new knot is centered between the 2 knots that came before it, because I want this all to be somewhat symmetrical. So I'm doing my best to just try and make sure that I keep everything even. So you'll see in just another minute. But once I did that, I continued to work it all the way up to the top. I trimmed off the ends and just tucked those ends under to make it nice and neat. And now it's going to sit nicely on my tabletop. And I think this is super cute, but let me know what you think. DIY number 2. All right, I have a wood round. I believe this came in a pack of 6. And if I'm not mistaken, I got it at the Hobby Lobby. I think it's been in my stash for a while, but I am taking my ruler and a pencil, and the mechanical pencil was giving me a little bit of trouble, but I finally got it to work. And I am just drawing some lines down through my my round. I am trying to make it look like faux shiplap. So, well, make it look like shiplap, or boards, right? But obviously it's faux because I'm creating the illusion, right? I am not worrying about it being perfect, because I figured, this is supposed to be a rustic sign. I'm just kind of smudging the pencil lines a little bit there. Didn't really smudge a whole lot, but it made me feel better about what I was doing because I didn't want them to be super, obvious that they were pencil lines. But at any rate, I've dropped a piece of parchment paper underneath here, and I'm going to grab out some of my chalk paint colors. The first one I'm going to use is called Agave, and I'm going to be using my baby wipes for these. Now, you can certainly tape off the project if you would like to. I did not. I am just going really super close to the pencil lines without going over them. And I'm going to show you a close-up in just a second so you can see what I'm talking about. But the agave was going on pretty opaque, so I ended up using a cleaner piece of the baby wipe to start wiping some more of that off, and just make it a little bit lighter. But you can see here I've gone right up close to the lines, but it's not perfect, and I didn't intend for it to be perfect, because I want it to have kind of like a worn, washed out look to it. Now, the next color I'm going to be using is my celery. And while I love this color of chalk paint, in hindsight, I'm wishing that I hadn't used it for this particular project. I wish I had used something a little bit brighter. I might have used my crystal chalk paint, which is more of like an icy blue color. I'm kind of wishing I had done that. It almost looks white in some instances, but it's got a tinge of blue to it. And just for this particular theme, I'm wishing that I'd used that instead of the celery. You can certainly use whatever colors you want. If I had to do it over again, I wouldn't use the celery. That's just me, right? But I'm going to continue to do exactly what I did with the agave. I am running it as close as I can get it to the pencil line without going over, and I'm not minding that there's a little bit of a gap between the colors because, again, I want this to be kind of beach worn look, if that makes sense. The third color I am using is my ocean, and again, going to use another baby wipe for this. I was a little worried this was going to go on super dark, but it was actually perfectly fine with the baby wipe. I just made sure that I didn't use too much paint, and I went over it with a cleaner part of the baby wipe, and it worked out just fine. And yeah, so I would say just use it sparingly. You can always add more paint. You can take some of it away, but it's always harder to take it away than it is to add more. So just a word to the wise. And now I'm like cracking myself up, you guys. I had no idea that I could see myself in this mirror while I was filming because of the angle of my camera. Like when I was doing this, I couldn't see myself in the mirror, but the camera is picking it up. Oh, joy. So this is just a little round mirror from the Dollar Tree, and I'm just making sure I've got it all nicely spaced. As you saw, I put a whole bunch of hot glue underneath it to get it set in place. And now I have this white cord that I'm going to use. I have no idea what I was saying to myself. Seriously. Oh, boy. But I'm going to go ahead and continue to apply this. Well, not continue. I was checking out what it was going to look like. Now I'm going to apply it with the hot glue. I'm going to just wrap this right around the mirror just to give it a little bit more interest and to hide the edges of the mirror. Not that they looked bad, but I just wanted to have a little bit more of a finishing touch and be a little bit, add another beach element to it, so to speak. This type of cord always makes me think of beachy stuff for whatever reason. So I'm just taking my time and making sure that I've got it all wrapped around. I'll trim off that end. I ended up having it a little bit longer than it needed to be, but I went ahead and added more hot glue and just wanted to make sure that I had it. I can't stop laughing about me being in the mirror. Sorry, guys. Yeah. Oh, goodness. So anyway, trimmed that off, kind of twisted it in the direction that it was originally twisted to try and keep it from fraying. And then I'll add a little bit more hot glue in there just to make sure that it's lining up as best as it can with the original end. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the outer edge. I have this like picture of Teletubbies. I don't know, and like that baby with its face in the sunshine. I don't know why that's coming to mind right now. I need to get some rest, I think, because I'm getting a little punchy. But went ahead and finished trimming the outer edge with my cord as well, and now I will create a hanger for it. Just going to grab another length of the cord, and I'm going to line it up with the lines where the blue meets the celery. And I'm going to be using some hot glue on the back here. Once I had it nice and lined up, I'm going to add the hot glue, lay it down, make sure that it's where it needs to be. And then I'm going to put a whole bunch more hot glue all over the cord just to make sure that it's nice and secure. And then I'll do the same thing on the other side. I'm just making sure it's lined up with the faux board lines on the front side, and did the same thing on this side. And then I just had to wait for it to cool, and it was ready to hang up. And now it's time to announce the winners from last week's video for the stickers and the rub-on transfers. Congratulations, Carrie White, Melissa Bullion, and Sue Frasina. Apologies if I mispronounced your names, but just email me at craftedbycorie@gmail.com. DIY number 3. All right, I have my silicone mats in place, and I am starting to get out some of my pour paints. This particular color I had mixed a long time ago. I think it was phthalo blue. To be honest, I cannot remember what it was. I might have mixed a couple of different colors together, but I'm also going to be using these other colors. I believe one is Arctic Pearl, one is Sage. I've got silver. I believe the yellow is called ochre, I think. But I'm going to go ahead and get them into my little silicone mixing cups, adding water to them, and just getting them to the consistency that I think is correct for being able to do paint pouring. I have not done paint pouring in a while, and I always had so much fun with it. So I figured I was going to do a beach-inspired paint pour. You'll have to let me know what you think of the end result. It's not quite what I originally had in mind, but there's something kind of magical about it that I really like. I guess a real artist, because I don't consider myself a real artist, but a real artist might look at it and say, oh, it's kind of muddy. Not sure. But at any rate, I've got my little stands set up here so that my paint can pour over the edges as needed. And I'm going to start out with my white paint. Now, it's been a while, like I said, since I've done this. And I think my paint might have gotten a little thicker since the last time I used it, because this should be able to pour and move. It was at a consistency before where it was movable, and you know, it's not moving. And I was like, uh-oh. So I'm using my fingers to spread it all around and just make sure that I've got the entire thing coated. And the reason for that is it's supposed to help your paint move better if it's already got paint on the surface. So I'm just making sure I've got it all coated. I'm going over all the edges just to make sure that I've got a coat of the white all over the canvas. Once I got myself all cleaned up, I am adding in my paint colors. Now, if I had it to do again, I think I would have kept the colors, rather than going over them like this, I think I would have kept the colors in stripes, if that makes sense. So I would have kept that first color just in like one little area down at the bottom. The next color I would have gone just above that, but in its own little stripe area, and so on. So maybe I'll give this another attempt in the near future, and I'll keep the colors more, I don't know how else to describe it, what I'm trying to say other than stripey. Just not overlapping each other like this. I don't know. But I've got that golden color, that ochre color that I'm adding in down at the very bottom. That is supposed to be symbolic of the sand. And now I'm trying to get this all to move. Now you can see on the left especially, and then on the right, the paint was moving a lot better for me than it was in the middle. No idea why that's the case. Maybe I had more paint on the ends than I had in the middle, and maybe the middle just wasn't moving because it didn't have sufficient paint for the movement. I don't know. But I kept continuing to try to get it to move for me. And I finally ended up giving up and grabbing my hairdryer, which I did have there. And I do use the hairdryer with the paint pouring sometimes, but I was at a loss at this point, you guys. So I went ahead and set it down, grabbed the hairdryer. I'm trying to keep the cord out of the painting here. And just blowing it across the canvas and trying to kind of salvage what I was doing here. I did end up kind of hitting the canvas a couple of times, so I've got to make sure that I'm a little bit more careful with that, because you can kind of see where I hit it right there again. Kind of scooping the paint right up with the hairdryer nozzle, whatever that is called. So I just continued with that until I had everything covered and kind of looking like I wanted it. I felt like I was missing some of that ochre color down at the bottom. But I went ahead and just made sure my edges were all set and covered. And then afterwards, I went and grabbed what was left of the paint that was just sitting in the bottom of my cups. There wasn't a lot, but I took what was there and went ahead and added it back to the painting. And especially with that ochre, I was glad to get a few extra drops in there because I felt like it needed something. And then I grabbed the hairdryer again and I went ahead and worked that all in. So you'll have to let me know what you think of this. It's actually really pretty and shimmery in person. I did a little video clip here at the end when it was dry to see if you could see all of the dimensions, but let me know what you think. Okay, everybody, that's it for today. If you enjoyed the project, remember to give me a big thumbs up, leave me a comment, let me know which one was your favorite, and if you are one of the winners, be sure to send me an email as instructed earlier in the video. And until the next time, be well, be kind, and make it a great day. Thank you so much for watching. Take good care. Bye.